And it's like really, really hot in the Brahmacharya ashram where I'm at here. Really intense. But it's really nice too. It's wonderful to be here with the devotees. Okay, why don't we go ahead and start then? Gora Graganya Gana Gotra Goloruharam Goranga Gura Tamagopya Kolpa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavaram Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachi Adile Kola Kahe Premananda Himona Goranga Hridoya Dadiya Bola Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Laha Gorangera Namare Jai Jana Goranga Bhaje Se Hoyamara Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Yasyaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema-bhakti-candrika Parama-pumata Tasmai Jagan-mangala-mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kuryat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidva Rishi Yustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathavta Brajabala Bapahimam Vancha Kopatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Krishna Namamrita Barshi Vaktra Chandra Prabhadvasta Tamo Baraya Gauranga Deva Anucharaya Namo Namah Shri Narotamaya. Again and again, I offer my obeisances unto Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He is indeed a true follower of Lord Gauranga Dev. The nectarian shower of the holy name of Krishna, radiating from the moon of his mouth, destroys the darkness of ignorance. Hare Krishna. So I want to thank everybody for being here today. And I just want to remind you, it's a short thing, that our purpose is to create a Sangha based on Krishna Katha. And that only really works if everybody comes and takes part. Both you come here physically as much as you can or online as much as you can. Dorothy is here with us for 10 more minutes or something today. That's really good. And better yet, at the end, you offer some comments and things, and that creates some community with us. So we're still in the 5th chapter, or the 5th song of Prema-bhakti-candrika, which is called Raga Nuga Bhakti Riti, a glimpse into the path of loving devotion, loving attachment. And I'm going to go ahead and go over some of the same verses that we did in our last session, because there's a whole lot of things that I want to say about them. In fact, I don't know if we're even going to be able to finish with it today, but probably we'll just, I doubt if we'll do another third session on it. So let's open up the verses here. Narottama dase kohe e jena mora hoy brajapure anurage bas Saki gana gananate amare gani betate tabuhun puriba abilash. Nautam Das Thakur plays, "O my Lord, please allow me to live in Braj and count me as one of the Sakis. Then only my desires will be fulfilled." In our last session, we spoke from some different songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, such as this verse from Gita Mala, where Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he prays that he can have a special operation where he changes his identity. Sakya charane kabe kori bo kuti saki kripa kori dibi sradu sikhi stuti. He's praying that when will that day come when I'll get this intense eagerness to serve the lotus feet of one of the gopis. And by doing that seva to that gopi, when will that day come when she gives her kripa, her mercy to me in swadharasiki stiti, and I understand my own eternal natural mellow. This is a prayer of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And then it differs a little bit in the two different versions we're going through, but I'm going to go the same way we went last time. He then quotes a verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, a very beautiful verse. Krishnam smadam janam chasya prestam nija samihitam tat tat kata ratas chaso kuryad vasam braje sada. Remembering Krishna and his favorite beloved eternal associate of Krishna, in other words, whoever our favorite eternal associate is, the practitioner should always reside in Braj, greatly attached to conversing about them. And so in our last session, we spoke something about the glories of Vrindavan Dham, and I want to continue a little bit more of that today. I'd also like to look back some of what we were reading from before. Srila Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary here, he quotes from this verse, Kuryad Basam Braje Sada, that we should always live in Braj. And Jiva Goswami comments on this from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Samarche Sati Braje Sriman Nanda Brajabasa Stane Sri Vrindavanado Sharirena Basam Kuryat Tad Abhave Manasat Pitjartaha. That if possible, we should Brajabasa Stani Sri Vrindavanado Sharirena. Sharirena means in our physical body. If possible, we should live in Braj physically. And if that's not possible, Basam Kuryat Tadabhave Manasapityartaha. We should live there mentally or aspire to live in Braj physically. And we spoke in our last session something about how Braj manifests in different places and how the devotees want to create Braj, and how this is one of the purposes of Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON movement, how Rupa and Sanatana Goswami and Jiva Goswami, when they're staying in northern West Bengal in Ramakeli, they created a Vrindavan Dham there. And if you haven't visited there, it's a really wonderful experience. They created, there's a Vrindavan forest, there's Radha-Kund and Shama-Kund and Lita-Kund and Vishaka-Kund and so many different places and so many different deities and things. So this is a desire of the devotees. And wherever Radha-Krishna are at, wherever Krishna Katha is going on, which is something I hope we get to today to speak something about, that place becomes Vrindavan. And this really is, in a nutshell, is the purpose of our movement. Not just to have some social thing where we come together and we quarrel about Lady Diksha Gurus or this thing or that thing, but we come together and we hear and chant about Krishna, and by doing that, it creates a tirtha. We were just fortunate to be in Germany for Janmashtami, and it's such a wonderful, it's Vrindavan there because of the kirtans, because of the katha. And similarly with Radha, similarly with New Vraja Dham, similarly with all the temples Srila Prabhupada established. But as we like to tell devotees, when they come to Jagannath Puri, we have many yatras there when we're there. We're hoping to be able to go again. When we tell devotees that while we're here, we should do Dham Seva. And what's the best Dham Seva? The best Dham Seva is Nam Seva. Because even in the Dham, in Mathura Dham now, there's a McDonald's, there's some liquor stores and things, much of the distress of some of the Brijbasi sadhus. And similarly in Jagannath Puri, there's so many nasty places selling animal flesh and alcohol and things. And the tendency is, although the Dham is manifest in this world, it becomes covered. And we spoke something about that in our last session. I'll visit that again in a moment. But I was telling the devotees that the best Dham Seva is Nam Seva. We're not coming to be tourists. We're coming there, we're coming to the temple, we're coming to the association of devotees to enter into Vrindavan, to manifest Vrindavan. And the best way to do that is with Nam Seva. And so when we go to the Dham, when we take yatras around in Puri, we do lots of Harinam. We do lots of Kirtan when we go to different places, because although the holy place is there, the Prodamaya Shakti of the Lord is covering it. And there's a lot of nasty things on the outside of the Dham, some of which literally smell very bad. And there's a lot of nonsense things that are going on. So this is our place. This is Krishna's place. This is Gauranga Mahaprabhu's place. This is a place of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and all of his followers. So we should claim it. And how do we claim it? How do we establish it? As in the case of Germany or Hungary or Belgium or wherever, we establish it by firmly going and having Krishna Katha and having Krishna Kirtan, because this place belongs to Krishna. Every place belongs to Krishna. And we want to make this place into Vrindavan. But as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told the devotees when he was leaving Navadvip, he said, you should do Kirtan and establish my movement. Kodye Stapana E Dharma, you establish my movement by doing this kirtan. But then he told them also, you have to serve each other and worship each other, worship the devotees, and have dealings that are free from pretension. And by doing that, we create Vrindavan. Because Vrindavan is such a place where there's no envy. We were speaking on Radha on Janmashtami about how Mother Yashoda, some accounts say she was 90 years old, some Brijbasi accounts, and they say that Nanda Maharaj was 95. We were just speaking about this a few days ago. We don't know his age, but that's what the local tradition says. So Mother Yashoda really, really wanted to have a child. Seeing her desire, the other Brijbasi ladies didn't become envious of her and tell her, look, man, come on, give it a break. You're an old lady now. You can't do that. But they all gave up wearing their ornaments and decided, we're going to do this brata until Yashoda has a child. We're not going to wear any ornaments. There's no envy in Braj. When Rohini was called by Vasudeva to return to Mathura, and why was she being called to return there, as we were describing a few days ago, because Vasudeva had a problem. What was his problem? His problem was Krishna and Balaram. Well, Krishna and Balaram are not such a problem, although they steal mukkan sometimes and girls' clothes and things. But in general, they're considered to be a great blessing. How is it a problem? It's a problem because when Krishna and Balaram killed Chanur and Mushtaka and Kamsa and delivered Vasudeva and Devaki, so then they convinced them, the residents of Mathura convinced them to stay. That's very good. But the problem was that these are farm boys. These are Brijbasi boys, and they're not used to the big city, and there's nobody there that they recognize. They don't relate to Vasudeva and Devaki as their father and mother. They're missing Nanda and Yashoda. They're missing the cowherd boys and the gopis. And they were a little bit in shock. And the only persons they had were each other. So Vasudeva, seeing the situation, decided, oh, I should call for my other wife, Rohini, to return to Mathura, because Rohini was in Braj with Krishna and Balaram, and they'll relate to her. And so he sent a letter, a message. You're my wife. You have to come here now. And when she got that letter, Jiva Goswami and Gopal Champu says it was a great dilemma for Rohini. Because, of course, she's happy. First of all, she follows her husband's order. She's a very nice Vedic lady. But secondly, she wants to be with Krishna and Balaram, but there's a great obstacle in her heart, and that was Mother Yashoda, who was very, very dear to her. And she thought, how can I leave Yashoda? Krishna and Balaram are already gone, and Yashoda is so fragile. She's missing them so much. I have to stay here to be with her. And Yashoda, seeing her mood, she said, no, you go. She said, there's no difference between you and I. We're one heart and two bodies. So you should go. And then when you get there, I want you to give this note to Devaki. And what did she write in the note? She might, if it was one of us, we might have said something like, what kind of bogus nonsense are you saying, trying to claim that Krishna is actually your son? He's not, he's my son. We might say something like that. But that wasn't the mood of Yashoda. When Yashoda wrote that note, she addressed to Devaki. She said that Krishna is also your son. Krishna is the son of both of us. So much love, so much lack of envy. So this is required. Namatsvaranam satam vedyam. If we want to vedyam, understand Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to be free from envy. So Narottam Das Thakur in this verse, he's speaking about how we want to live in Vrindavan. How do we live in Vrindavan? By having Krishna Katha, not just that you go to Vrindavan and open up a business in Loy Bazaar and make lots of money. And yeah, this is really cool. I'm in Vrindavan. And maybe sometimes you go for some darshans or something, this and that. Vrindavan is established by consciousness, especially when we have Krishna Katha. So we want to do this Dham Seva, wherever we're at. That we're doing Dham Seva. We're here in Budapest. We're doing Dham Seva because we want to establish the Dham. We want to preserve the Dham that Shivaram Raj and others have created here by bringing Dwelnitai Vijay Gauranga. We want to establish the Dham in New York and Los Angeles and all over. And we want to preserve the Dham and reveal the Dham in Jagannath Puri and Vrindavan and Mayapur. So we want to do that Nam Seva, that Dham Seva. That Nam Seva means Krishna Katha Seva. This Vrindavan is so very, very dear. In the Padma Purana, Krishna says, Paschat yojanam eva stevanam me dehagupakam. That Vrindavan, this is my body. And we were speaking something in our last session about these 5 different angas of bhakti that Mahaprabhu stressed and Rupa Goswami begins with in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Sadhu Sangha Nam Kirtan Bhagavat Shravan Mathura Bhasa Sri Murtira Shradaya Sevan, and how these go in a krama or in a sequence. We also read something from Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary on Brahma Samhita, where he quotes the Gautamiya Tantra in conversation with Narad Muni and Krishna. And Narad Muni is asking Krishna, what are the 32 forests of Vrindavan? And Krishna, initially, the first thing he told him, Idam Vrindavanam Nama Mama Damaiva Kevalam. That place known as Vrindavan, that's my only abode. And Krishna went on to explain, Avir Bhavas Tura Bhavo Bhavan Netra Yuge Yuge Tejo Mayam Idam Ramyam Adrishyam Charma Chakshusha. That millennium yuga after yuga, Avir Bhavas Tura Bhava, I appear and disappear in this Dham of Vrindavan. And this Dham, which is Ramyam, is very, very splendid and sweet. But adrishyam, charma, chakshusha, it can't be seen with material vision. So we want to live in Vrindavan. We want to enter into Vrindavan, the most wonderful place. But in our last session, we heard something about how Proto-Maya covers the Dham. And Proto-Maya keeps us from keeps materialistic persons from entering the Dham. And we spoke something also a little politically incorrect, perhaps, about how ISKCON is also a Dham. And there's some people just who just in the same way that there are some persons who are on top of Navadvip or on top of Vrindavan, but they haven't actually entered into the Dham. There's also some people who are in the same way with ISKCON. That's okay. We don't hate them. I'm not trying to do any politics or anything against them. It's good. It's good that they're coming through the doors. And even it's good they're coming and doing some kind of business or something, because at least they touch the building, they touch the devotees, they touch the holy name in Srimad Bhagavatam. And as long as those things are there, there's some auspiciousness. But it's up to us to remain fixed and understand what is the real purpose of Srila Prabhupada. What is the real purpose? How are we going to establish this? So I don't know who's on their iPhone, but someone just said, this Namatsara, does it come naturally with Namruchi? Is there any way of getting to natural Namatsara? Well, you can make a connection with Namruchi. Shushu Shoshadadana Shavasudeva Kataruchi Shan Mahat Sevayavi Prapunya Tirthana Sevanam. When we come in touch with simple devotees who are non-envious, just like, I'm not saying any names, but recently I was having a conversation with a very senior devotee, and it really broke my heart, that conversation, because pretty much the whole conversation he just wanted to say bad things about everybody. And it's Ujjwala Resiga. Hare Krishna. Nice to see you here. And unfortunately for myself, I got caught up in that. And really, I'm so ashamed to say, he was asking me about certain people and said, well, do you agree with them? And I was honestly said, no, I don't agree. Well, did you have any disagreements? He was really pushing me. And I said, well, yes, we disagreed about this. And he was just eating that up. And it was breaking my heart. Why? I don't want to speak badly about other people. When we associate, I remember Radhanath Maharaj once, I was on his yatra, and he's in Puri, and he was going to Alanath Brahmagiri, and he invited me to ride in the car with him. And so we're sitting in the car, and I'm like an idiot trying to make conversation. So I mentioned something to him. I said, oh, how are things going in New Vrindavan? Because I know Maharaj that's where his heart was. He was there for many years. And I said, I've heard that things are not going so well, and there's been some difficulties with the devotees and some scandals and whatever. And before that, we were talking about Krishna and Jagannath and different things. And when I started asking this kind of political thing about the resonance of New Vrindavan, Maharaj didn't answer me. He just got quiet. He stopped speaking. And then I could understand, oh, I made a mistake. We should be careful. So in answer to Ujjwala Rasagya, when we associate with persons who are Nirmatsara, and Nirmatsara meaning in their body, mind, and words, especially how they're speaking Hari Katha, are they speaking Hari Katha? Are they just talking about the presidential election in the United States, which naturally every living being has some feelings about stuff like that. But that's not something transcendental. That's not what's been given to me by Guru to speak about. So that's something which has some envy, because it's based on my material psychophysical nature, which is a body made out of envy. So it doesn't mean I can't speak about it with some people, but not when I'm speaking Krishna Katha, not when I want to have intimate association with Vaishnavas. Right? So we want to be in Vrindavan, and Vrindavan is that place which gives pleasure to the Lord. In the 10th canto, chapter 11, there's a beautiful verse. If you write these things down, it's text 36. Shukadeva Goswami, he describes Vrindavanam Govardhanam Yamuna Pulinani Cha Vikshasid Uttama Priti Rama Madhavayo Nripa. That Krishna and Balaram, they got Uttama Priti. They got the greatest ecstasy, the greatest happiness, they experienced the greatest love by seeing Vrindavan, Govardhan Hill, and the Jamuna River. That gives so much pleasure to the heart of Krishna. It gives so much pleasure to the heart of the devotees. I'd like to share with you a few other poetic descriptions. The first is from Srila Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu. Bhantirasya sputam arihari prema kim vananiyam santardanam stita vatiharo badam antardadeyaha yantu swam senacha vishayatam atra govardhanadya lokesh nigdarachayitam idam nakshama sham itiva. How can I describe the love a certain banyan tree in Braj feels for Krishna? When Krishna disappeared from that world, that tree thought, Govardhan Hill and the Jamuna River, they'll stay here. Other places will stay in their partial expansions, but I have no power. And then that tree disappeared from this world. So all the residents of Vrindavan have so much love for Krishna. In Govinda Lilamrita in chapter 6, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also gives a very beautiful description about Vrindavan. Prabhu Yadvam Valyo Vikasata Naga Kurdata Mrigaha Pika Bringaganam Kuruta Sikino Nityata Mudha. Sorry, it's the wrong meter. Prabhudyadvam valyo vikasata naga kurdatam mrigaha pika bringarganam kuruta sikino nrityata mudha advidvan bokiraha shirachara gananandata chiram samayato yushman sukayitam asova priyatamaha. After Krishna had left Vrindavan, after he disappeared, the Vrindavan forest fainted, being burned by the blazing forest fire of his separation. And then Krishna, who was just like a dark cloud, he showered rain on that forest by his presence, announcing his arrival with the sweet sound of his flute. This is Vrindavan. This is a land that the devotees want to go. And in Vrindavan, the flute reigns supreme. And again, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes Satvadharma Viparya Sarvenu Nadam Ritotitai So Satvika Vikaraischa Tadad Bud Vyakulatavi. When the sound of Krishna's flute was heard in the Vrindavan forest, all the trees and plants who are normally stationary, they began to move. Sattvika vikaras, they began to experience different asa-sattvikara bhavs. And all the moving creatures became stunned and motionless. The flowers all turned white, began to perspire and cried tears of honey, while the birds became choked up and couldn't sing, and the grass and creepers all stood erect in transcendental bliss. This is the magical land of Vrindavan. When Krishna hears, we were mentioning in our last session, I think, he hears the cooing sounds, cuckoo, cuckoo, of the different birds and the geese and swans in the lakes and waters of Vrindavan. He becomes confused and he thinks, oh, Srimati Radharani has appeared. When Krishna sees the ripe oranges and pomegranate fruits and different things in Vrindavan, Krishna becomes ecstatic because he remembers the breasts of Radharani. Wherever Krishna looked in Vrindavan, he sees Srimati Radharani, because that forest is organized by Brinda Devi to remind Krishna of Srimati Radharani. So we want to live in Vrindavan. There's 5 different types of Brijbasis. One can be born in Braj. One can die in Braj. One can live in Braj. One can take initiation in Braj or the temples, which is also Braj. And one can live in Braj by one's consciousness. My Guru Maharaj used to comment, and I think we mentioned in our last session, how Putana and Kamsa, they're also Brijbasis, but we don't consider them to be actual Brijbasis. So what does it mean to really enter into Vrindavan? I'd like to read you something from a lecture Srila Prabhupada gave in Vrindavan in 1974. Prabhupada says, this Vrindavan Tirtha, if someone comes here with a bodily concept of life, they don't derive any benefit. Yet Tirtha Buddhi Salile. Salila means water. Just like generally people come here, take their bath in the Jamuna River, and they think, now my business is finished. I came to Vrindavan. I took my bath in the Jamuna River, and I purchased some things from Lloyd Bazaar. Now let me go home. I finished my tirtha. But Shastra says, no, that's not tirtha. Janesha abhigyeshu. If you want to purify yourself, then in the tirtha, you must find out abhigya. Abhigya means one who knows. Someone who knows Krishna. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur published many articles in Sajjana Toshini magazine. And an old friend of mine some years ago published the published editions of the Harmonist magazine. And going through there after he first published it, I came across two articles which got me really excited. One was called Brajamandal Parikrama, the other is called Navarit Mandal Parikrama. And I thought, wow, this is great. I spend so much time in the Dham, now I can get some secrets about Brajamandal Parikrama and Navarit Mandal Parikrama, some special places to go and that. And I was very surprised to find in those articles there was no mention, no description of Vrindavan or Mayapur. And all that he talked about was sadhu sangha. The only thing that he spoke about was when you go there, you don't go there, to put it in a modern context, we don't go there to purchase a t-shirt. I went to Vrindavan and got this t-shirt, right? But we go there to hear from sadhu. And he spoke about how when we go through Vrindavan, when we go on Brajamandal Parikrama, we should not try to see the deities, the temples, or the places. Rather, we should go with sadhu guru and look to their face to see what they're experiencing. So let me share with you something else about entering into Vrindavan, since this is the topic that Narottam Das Thakur is speaking. This is from a lecture which was given in 1935 in the Sri Gaudiya Mutt on July 29th in Kolkata. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta spoke there. He said, by residing in the holy Dham, we make progress in the worship of the Lord. But there's a certain category of persons, he calls them Dham enjoyers. And if you go to Mayapur, you'll see there's more pizza parlors than there are deities, practically in Mayapur Dham. And that's something it brings people to come, brings them there to the Dham. But as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says here, the Dham enjoyers make a show of living in the Dham. In order to get happiness from the association of their material sons, wife, daughters, and friends, and enhance the happiness of their family after death, they find faults in the activities of the Supreme Lord and the devotees. In other words, they go to the Dham, but all they do is they criticize everyone. And they have something to say about everybody. And for them, they're really thinking that to establish the Dham, the way to establish it is by criticizing it and to make everybody hear from me because I know so much. I know what is a really, but they're full of envy. And so they can't hear Krishna Katha, they can't appreciate the Vaishnavas, and they can't really enter into the Dham. Proto-Maya keeps them away from the Dham. They're on top of the Dham. They haven't entered into it. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, this is a letter, excuse me, I said lecture. He said, but you are a wise person. So you can understand the difference between the two words, Sridham Bhogi and Sridham Bas. Sridham Bhoga, or Bhogi is a person who's enjoying Sridham Bhog, who's enjoying the Dham. It's a nice sunset. I'm so glad I came. I took so many photos for my WhatsApp group and for Facebook and things, and I'm showing everybody all these selfies and things, what a wonderful person I am and how transcendental I am. And it's such a nice place we're at. You're enjoying at Sri Dambog. We should go to do Dham Seva. So he's saying there's a difference between Sri Damboga and Sri Dambas, living in the Dham. And he says the devotees who live in the Dham can elaborately explain the difference between these two persons who are service inclined. I'll go there as soon as possible and discuss the topics of Dham Bhog and Dham Seva in the Avidyahara auditorium. I'll be glad if everyone is present in that assembly. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta liked it very much. He marked it. He marked Srila Prabhupada. Not that Srila Prabhupada wasn't interested in going on Brajamandal Parikrama along with his godbrothers. He was interested in hearing from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And later Srila Bhaktisiddhanta commented, I marked him. He likes to hear. That's such an important thing. He goes on in the letter, the mindsets of devotee householders and that of non-devotees are not the same. If those who engage in Dambas maintain ignorance rather than obtaining transcendental knowledge and thus take a vow, in effect, not literally, thus take a vow to commit offenses against the Dham, then the followers of Srivasa's mother-in-law and the brahmachari who sustained his life simply by drinking milk will increase. We spoke about these two pastimes on the first day of the Czech retreat recently, and how Srivas Thakur's mother wanted to come and see the kirtan of Mahaprabhu. And there's this brahmachari, very elevated brahmachari. All he did was drink milk. And on different occasions, they snuck into the kirtan of Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu was very, very angry with him. And he kicked them out. Srivas Thakur grabbed his mother by the hair and dragged her out. It's unheard of. Huh? But he did that because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta comments in the story in Chaitanya Bhagavat that he did that because he was in a kind of mad state of ecstasy, thinking of the happiness of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He wasn't thinking, this is my mother. The creeper of devotional service will dry up or be torn apart by the trunk of an elephant, meaning the Hatimata, the mad elephant of Vaishnava Aparad, and thus be transformed into desires for profit, adoration, and distinction. So we want to create the Dham. We want ISKCON to be the holy Dham. This is our whole purpose. But if we just come here thinking, yeah, I showed up, I'm hiding and I'm watching everything that's going on, it's for my enjoyment, like Srivas Thakur's mother, the brahmachari milk drinker, then we can't really enter in. And if we have that attitude of enjoying the Dham, then it's only going to increase their followers, the mood. There's going to be more and more people coming like that. And it's going on. There's so many people who go to the Dham, who come to the temple just to enjoy something. I'm not suggesting we lock the doors and kick them out, but maybe we might want to have some programs where we do that. Lock the doors. Don't let them in. Have a small sangha on WhatsApp or someplace and just like-minded devotees. It's needed. It's needed to purify this Dham, to establish this Dham. If we don't do that, if we're not going there to do service, then our creeper of bhakti will be torn up by this mad elephant of Vaishnava Aparad. And it'll be transformed into desires for profit, adoration, and distinction. This is what's going on in so many different places. So to serve Srila Prabhupada, to serve Krishna in Vrindavan, to do this Dham Seva, we do this Nam Seva, we do Krishna Katha, Harinam. It's so important. Bhaktisiddhanta went on. Therefore, my request at the lotus feet of the pretenders living in the Dham and their followers is that they may not live in the Dham with their previous inauspicious mentality. Because if they do so, their destination will be the association of blasphemers of Vaishnavas. I've seen this. I've seen this in Vrindavan Dham. I was in Vrindavan Dham many different times for Kartik and different things. And I experienced it. If you are very sincere and you're chanting really nice rounds, then Krishna sends you wonderful people and they come and they talk to you about Krishna Katha and topics of the devotees and things. But if you are going onto Facebook while you're chanting japa and doing this thing and that thing, then oftentimes you'll have a very bad day. And what happens then? You're in Vrindavan and you're meeting people who are living in Vrindavan, but they're there to criticize people. And there's quite a lot of them. There's quite a lot of them. Oh, did you hear, Archie, did you know the real scandal? You're from Hungary. Did you know what's really going on behind closed doors? You're such a fool. You're just a simple devotee thinking you can chant Hare Krishna. No, no, you should be disturbed by this terrible thing that's going on. And people, oh my God, and think, oh, Krishna, I can't chant right now. I gotta, there's this conspiracy going on. There's this terrible thing going on. To hell with all the conspiracies. The conspiracy is between the material nature and materialistic persons. That's the real conspiracy. And we want to have a conspiracy with the pure Vaishnavas by promoting Krishna Katha and Krishna Kirtan. So we spoke in our last session, I think, about three different visions of seeing the Dham. Let's share this with you real quick. It's a beautiful discussion. Drishyaman, Shabda, and Aprakrit. Drishyaman means an ordinary vision, that they see some bad thing. But Pashanapi Napashati, they're seeing, but they're not really seeing. They just see some external thing, and they see something that smells bad. They're coming to Srila Prabhupada's Seva Sangha mission of spreading the holy name, the whole purpose of which is to give people Krishna, give them Krishna Prem. And they're coming here and they're just talking about something they saw in the toilet in the brahmachari ashram, or something they heard about this person. Who gives a damn? I don't want to hear about that thing. So that's Drishyaman Darshan. That's some external vision of what's going on. Shabda Darshan, Shutekshitapata, the pathway of seeing through our ears. Bhagavatam 3.9.11 is a process that we've heard from our acharyas. But Sunilina Sunakana, many people, they're hearing, but they're not hearing. So by hearing then, through this process of hearing, we'll come to Aprakrit Darshan, which is where we actually see what's really going on and how Radha and Krishna's pastimes are going on right now. So we see the Dham by the mercy of a sadhu. There's a famous story, tradition in Braj, that on one occasion, Man Singh, who was a general, Vaishnav general, great devotee, in the army of Maharaj Akbar. And he came to Vrindavan. It said that Maharaj Man Singh was a disciple of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. And he heard from his Guru Maharaj about the glories of Sanatana Goswami. And so he went to him. He found Sanatana Goswami sitting at Keshigat on the bank of the Jamuna. And Man Singh came to him with a little bit of abhiman. Man Singh was thinking, here's this poor sadhu, he's just dressed in some rags, he doesn't have anything, but this is his lucky day. Here I am, and I can give him so much donations and so many things. So he went to me and said, Maharaj, I want to do some seva. What can I do for you? What can I build? And I can build a city. I've got so much wealth. And Sanatana Goswami looked at him and saw, this is not the mood to enter Vrindavan. And Sanatana Goswami said, well, yes, there is something. If you'd like to help, it's a big problem. Man Singh said, yes, that's why I'm here. What is it? And Sanatana Goswami pointed next to him on the ground there. He said, you see this brick? This brick is cracked. Could you please replace this brick? That would be a great service if you can do that. And Man Singh, who's ready to build a city, build huge temples and buildings, which he did. What is this? Replace a brick? A brick is less than 1 paisa. And then he looked down at that brick. And what did he see? By the mercy of Sanatana Goswami, Man Singh had some aprakrit darshan. He saw the Dham as it actually is. And that one brick was made from the most fantastic jewels. And in his entire treasury, Man Singh didn't have the wealth to replace that one brick. He became humbled and fell at the feet of Sanatana Goswami. Oh, I've committed some aparat. I thought that I could see the Dham with my material senses, but it's only by your mercy that I'm able to see Vrindavan. So what is Braj? Braj is not just a place, but Braj is love. Uh-huh. I'd like to share another couple of verses with you from Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu. Yastam pataka miduvata kampita nanamukhi bhavam ita puna punaha sarabhyam ayati yada yatastada vivritya pasyanti disham amum eva. In the place, the kingdom of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan, the flags are fluttering in the breeze, but when the fragrance of Krishna's body comes on that wind, then all the flags, regardless of how the wind is blowing, they point in the direction of the fragrance of Krishna's body. This is a wonderful land of Vrindavan. Again in Gopal Champu, Srila Jiva Goswami describes let's see here. Give me just a second. Loka Srinata Loka Prati Ruchiri Vijay Kananam Sri Sprihajid Vasa Sri Rajadani Nikila Subha Ruchambasinas Tataeva Bhokta Krishna Sabhogya Pranayamadu Rima Sasvat Ityevam Asmin Pratyekam sarvam antakaranamati gatam kashtad antam labeta. Goloka's beauty surpasses that of Vaikuntha. The forest of Vrindavan exceeds the desires of Lakshmi and Golok. All the auspicious splendor of Vaikuntha resides, and there's no equal to the inhabitants of Golok. Krishna is the enjoyer there. And the sweetness of prema is to be enjoyed constantly. Krishna surpasses the individual and collective minds of all persons who can find an end to his glories. This is Vrindavan Dham. And Jiva Goswami goes on to explain Ata sarvatak shemananam sa'eva prema sarvata spurati, that of all the auspicious things in this world, prema is the most auspicious. And Jiva Goswami then, he becomes a little confused in his discussion. Let's look at his verse. Hari prema sakshat eva bhavati kimva braja janas tayor ekasmim cha spurati sahi sasvat spurati naha idam varam vidisiva surasi prabhritayau Sputam kartum shaktim dadati nataram yat kiyadapi. Is Krishna directly prema? Hari prema sakshat? Is Lord Hari Krishna directly prema? Eva bhavati kimva braja janas. Or maybe the people of Braj are prema. Tayor ekasmim chaspurati sahi sasvat spurati naha. When prema appears in either Krishna or his devotees, then it appears in me. And he says that idam vadam vidisiva sudasi prabharyatayo. Although Lord Brahma, Shiva, and Narad Muni want to reveal this prema, they don't have the power to do so. And Jiva Goswami goes on to explain Satu Paramascharya Charyaha, that prema is the most astonishing thing. So what is the glory of Braj? It's not just a place with some nice trees. I've got a really good collection of different fruits and flowers and things there that are amazing. They blossom out of season. But the glories of Braj, you can't separate it from the glories of Prema. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes in Govinda Lilamrita, Gokulai, Gokulam Ninye, Gokulam, Gokulai Haran, Gokulam, Gokulastrinam, Gokulai, Gokuleshwaraha. He's a wonderful poet. He's Kaviraj, the king of poets. Gokulai, Gokulam Ninye, the Lord of Gokul, Jodi's cows Gokul. Gokulam Gokulai Haran. As he entered Gokul, Gokulai Haran, stealing the senses Gokul of the young girls of Gokul, Gokul Srinam, Gokulai, Gokuleshwara, and the eyes of the people of Gokul. This is Vrindavan. The glories of Vrindavan is a love there. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Narad Muni explains that some people think that Braj is that the nature of Braj is that all the residents there are completely bewildered by Krishna. He says, but they don't know. It's not true. Krishnena na braja jana kila mohitaste taisavya mohi bhagavan iti satyameva gatva mayaiva sahivismita vreva karyo nusmarita kimapi kritya maho katanchit. He says it's not that the Brijbasis, Krishnena na brajajana kila mohitaste, they weren't bewildered by Krishna, just the opposite. Taisa vyomyahi bhagavan iti satyam. Satyam, the truth is that Krishna was bewildered by them. And Krishna then, so much so, he forgot all about Sahi Vismita Deva Karya. I came here to do some service for the Devatas, for the demigods. And so then Narad Muni says, I had to go and tell him, Nusmarita Kima. Hey, Krishna, remember? Paritanaya sadhanam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstarpanataya. You came to establish religion, kill the demons, deliver the, you got work to do, man. You got to go. You got to punch in your time clock. And then Krishna, remember, oh, yes, that's right. And so I have to leave Vrindavan. So we should understand the nature of the love of Vrindavan. There's another beautiful verse, one of my favorite verses. This is from Lalita Madhav. Rupa Goswami describes how Krishna on one occasion in a place known as Nava Vrindavan, in, I want to say Jagannath Puri, I'll just say that, but in Dwarka, he went with Srimati Radharani, who had taken the form of Satyabhama. That's a long story. And along with Navabrinda Devi, they went into a cave. And in that cave, in that Navabrindavan garden, there were beautiful paintings on the wall, just like in Golokadam, Germany. Our friend Kaveri, who's a disciple of Krishna Chaitanya, she sent many paintings, beautiful paintings of Gaur Lila, just for the festival. And they had those set up all over the place. So in the same way, Krishna was going to this cave with Radharani, and Navabrinda Devi was asking questions. And at one point, they came to a picture of Mother Yashoda tying Krishna up with ropes. And she asked an interesting question. She said that okay, Krishna, you were tied up by Mother Yashoda, and then you freed. It was the picture, actually, excuse me, was of Krishna freeing Manigriva and Nalakuvera from their form of trees. And she asked this question, okay, you released them from that bondage of that form of trees. Why didn't they untie the ropes that your mother tied you to that grinding mortar with? Good question, isn't it? And here is Krishna's reply. Vatsalya mandala mayena mamoru damna Yakopi banda garima niramahi matra tanmuktaye padama banda vimokshanopi naham shame sakipadashitu katatra. He says, those were not ordinary ropes. And Krishna, he began to cry. And he said that my rope, my mother tied me up with the ropes. Vatsalya mandala mayena mamoru damna. She tied me up with the ropes of her maternal love. And Krishna says, it's true, I'm Mukunda. I can free everybody from birth and death, but I can't untie my mother's ropes. And if I can't untie them, then what to speak of someone else? This is Vrindavan. And this is why Krishna is so attached to Vrindavan. So the verse also describes tat tat kata ratas chaso. Narottam Das Thakur, quoting this verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we should live in Vrindavan, Kuryad Basam Braje Sada, by constantly hearing Krishna Katha. Tanama Rupa Charitari Sukirtanani Smityo Kamena Vasanam Manasini Yoja. Rupa Goswami says in Upadeshamrita that the essence, Upadesha Saram, the essence of all instructions is that we should constantly hear Krishna Katha. Prabhupada comments in his purport there, he says, this is Shravana Dasa. This is the stage of hearing. We should constantly hear from Krishna. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in Jaiva Dharma, he explains 5 stages of hearing. Let's look at this real quick here. Shravana Dasa, Varna Dasa, Smarna Dasa, Bhavana Pada Dasa, or Apana Dasa, and Prema Sampati Dasa. Shravana Dasa means the stage we're hearing, and that's nice we're hearing, but we haven't really digested it. Varna Dasa, when that comes and we accept it, yes, this, I have faith in this. That faith rises in our heart, then we can accept that Krishna Katha. And from that Varna Dasa, then when, yeah, this makes sense in my mind, I'm going for this, I like it so much, then Smarna Dasa comes, where some remembrance. And from that, Bhavana Padadasa or Apanadasa. Apanadasa means to attain. We come to that platform of ecstatic ecstasy. And then Prema Sampati Dasa. We come to experience Krishna Prema. These are different levels of hearing. In his commentary on the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that there's 4 different divisions of hearing. Let's show these. This is something also from an article I wrote some years ago about hearing and reading. Vaikari, Madhyama, Pashanti, and Prana. Vaikari is called Nasika Vayu. The air is coming out of the nose. And you're just repeating something you've heard from your guru, but you don't really think, I'm not supposed to think about it, right? I told Krishna, some devotees in front of Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj, that I said, I told him first, I said, Maharaj, please excuse me, but it's a little uncomfortable being around you. And he was kind of a little taken aback by my bold comment. I said, because Maharaj, you make people think. And that's very uncomfortable. And Maharaj was laughing. He was very pleased. That was my way of glorifying him. So sometimes we hear something, as a bumper sticker I sometimes quote in America, Jesus said it, I believe it, and that settles it. I'm not supposed to think about it. The same thing we say, Prabhupada said it, I believe it, and that settles it. Why did Prabhupada say it? Where did Prabhupada say it? When did Prabhupada say it? What was his purpose? Oh, I don't want to think about it. That's too complicated. I just want to mechanically. That's Vaikari. You repeat something you've heard, but you're not deeply contemplating it. It's cheap, it's easy, and there's some benefit, but not so much. It's Nasika Vayu. That's the hearing you're experiencing. Madhyama is much better. Madhyama comes when we begin to conceive, to think about what Gurudeva said, what the Krishna Katha said. And that's when the sound begins to enter the heart. And then we come to the platform of Pashanti, where Nam and Nami become one. At that point, the sound that we heard becomes realized. And then comes prana, where that sound, through that sound vibration, we enter directly into Krishna Lila. This is our purpose in hearing Krishna Katha. This is our purpose of this movement. We want to establish Vrindavan Dham. Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a description about the hearing of the Bahirmukh Janas, the external persons, in his Jaiva Dharma. Let's look at this together. It's a really interesting conversation between Vijay and his guru, who's presented here as Goswami. And Vijay asks him, he says, Guru Maharaj, those persons who are Bahirmukh Dasa, they also sometimes hear Krishna Katha. What kind of Shravan is that? And his guru tells him there's a difference between, a gulf of difference between someone who's Bahirmukh, constantly attracted by the external material nature, and a person who's Antarmukh, or looking toward the real self in the Lord. For a Bahirmukh materialistic person, hearing about Krishna occurs by chance, not because they have some faith. But that hearing is called bhakti ummukhi sakriti. It's some piety that you get unknowingly by just being there and hearing something. And if you continue that, then eventually, maybe in some later life, you may get shraddha, you may get faith. But once you gain shraddha, someone is very eager, they become thirsty to hear about Krishna from an elevated devotee. And that's the required condition for hearing at Shravana Dasa. And he says in Shravana Dasa is of two times, Kramasudha Shravana Dasa and Kramahina Shravana Dasa. Kramasudha Shravana Dasa means hearing purely, hearing properly. It's proper hearing. They say here in proper sequence. Kramahina Shravana Dasa means that we're not hearing in a proper way. In another place, here, Bhaktivinoda says, he requested, please explain Kramahina Shravana Dasa, or improper hearing. Hearing the different pastimes of Krishna in an improper sequence and manner is known as Kramahina Shravana Dasa. In addition, hearing without aspiring to a particular rasa results in a barrier to the flow of rasa, thus preventing the hearer from finding entrance to the pastimes. So Kramahina Shravana Dasa can mean a number of different things, one of which is hearing something, not hearing Krishna Katha. And Kramasudha Shravana Dasa means that we're hearing in a proper way from proper Vaishnavas. And Srila Prabhupada, the first thing that he stressed for the devotees was not the Ras Lila and the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, but he spoke to them, you're not your body. You should understand some philosophy. And not everybody was able to accept that. They didn't come to the stage of Varna Dasa. They heard it, Shravana Dasa, they went and they were repeating it to everybody, running around. Our guru says, you're not your body, you're not your body, you're not your body. But even though they practically made a mantra out of that, you're not your body, you're not your body, I'm not my body, I'm not my body, that still that doesn't help. Until we come to the point of Varna Dasa, we accept the words of Gurudev. And when we come to that point, then we begin to make some proper advancement. Sometimes we tell the story about Radha-Raman Ghosh. I'm not going to tell it here right now. I think it's getting a little late. I want to go. But he had the opportunity, the good fortune of hearing Bhagavatam from one exalted Vaishnava in Vrindavan. And he was going there every day. They spoke all 12 cantos. And when the last verse of the 12th canto was spoken, suddenly this tamal tree in front of him that he was speaking in front of cracked in two, and Krishna came out. And Radha-Raman Ghosh had darshan of Krishna, and he fainted in ecstasy, unconscious. When he came back to external consciousness, that old man had his head on his lap, and he was rubbing Radha-Raman Ghosh's head and telling him, so Radha-Raman, you see my Radha-Raman. Now you should also speak Krishna Katha. You should preserve the Dham. Do this Dham Seva, speaking Krishna Katha. You should establish the Dham in different places. And Radha-Raman Goshen, perhaps he questioned, well, what does that mean? Does it mean I speak an hour a day, 2 hours a day, 6 hours a day? Does it mean I recite the entire Srimad Bhagavatam and then it becomes a Dham? When does the Dham manifest? How does the science work? And in that regard, perhaps, although it doesn't say in the story, but perhaps his guru then recited a couple of verses from the Bhagavat Mahatma section of the Vaishnava Kanda of Skanda Purana, which some years ago, Gopi Puranadana Prabhu very kindly translated for us. I'd like to share with these two verses. Srimad Bhagavatam Shastram Yata Bhagavatara Yada Kirtateshu Yate Chapi Sri Krishna's Tatra Nishchitam. So he said, wherever and whenever, the Skanda Purana says, the devotees of the Lord come and recite and hear Srimad Bhagavatam, you should understand, Sri Krishna's Tatra Nishchitam, you should be convinced, Nishchitam, Krishna is personally present there. And this is our purpose in doing a retreat in Czech Republic. This is our purpose in establishing temples. This is our purpose in festivals and different things. We want to establish Krishna. And not just by making a statue or putting some paintings. That's nice. But the statue will become the deity when our heart becomes purified by Krishna Katha and Krishna Nam. And then we'll see Krishna's presence there. So then he goes on. So how many verses should we recite? And he says, Srimad Bhagavatam Yatra Shlokam Shlokardam Evacha. Just one verse, a Shlokardam, even half a verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. And what happens to Trapi Bhagavan Krishna Balavi Bir Virajate. Krishna comes running there. Oh, Srimad Bhagavatam's going on. I want to hear. And Krishna comes running. And Krishna's not alone. Balavi Bir Virajate. Krishna comes with the Braj Gopis. And this is why having Sangha, physical Sangha, especially of Krishna Katha, is such a very, very wonderful thing. It's such an important thing. I'd like to recite a couple of verses with you from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which speak about the dangers of Krishna Katha, how you should be very, very careful of it. And then I want to finish with a verse from the Hari Bhakti Vilas. So just a couple more minutes. Let me just think about the meter here. Okay. Rupa Goswami says, Smiram Bangitraya Parichitam Sachivistina Dristim Vangsi Nyastadhara Kisalayam Ujvalam Chandrakena Govindakyam Haritanum Itakesi Tirtopakane Ma Prekshistastava Yadisaki Bandhu Sange Stirangahan. He said, Yadisaki Bandhu, my dear friend, if you're attached to your worldly friends, then take my advice. Don't go to the bank of the Jamuna at Keshigat. It's a very dangerous place. Because there, Vamsi Nyasta Dadakishalayam Ujalam Chandakena Govinda Kyam. Govinda is there, playing on his flute. And he'll capture your mind. And then he goes on to speak about Srimad Bhagavatam and hearing Krishna Katha. Shanke Nitta Sapari Dasamaskanda Padjavalinam Varna Karnadvani Patikatamanal Purvadya Bhavadbihi Hamho Dimbha Paramashubadan Hantastam Arta Kaman Yadgar Hantam Sukam Mayam Ami Muksham Up Yakshipanti. He said, you foolish children, what have you done? You've let the syllables of sound of the verses from the 10th canto enter your ears. Now I understand why you're not interested in Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, religiosity, and making money and sense gratification, and why, Moksham apyakshipanti, you're not even interested in liberation. This is a problem when you hear Krishna Katha. Don't hear Krishna Katha if you want to be if you want to enjoy a material life. So in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, in the 15th, on the 10th Vilas of Hari Bhakti Vilas, it speaks about the etiquette and the ultimate necessity of hearing Krishna Katha and who to hear from. And there's a verse I want to share with you. If you know some Sanskrit, the translation's not exactly the verse, but that's because the translation is actually for Sanatana Goswami's commentary. Shastra vyasasya cha bhave purvesham loka vishrutam satam budunikanan chakatam bandhu sakirtya. He says that we should hear Krishna Katha from someone who's Shastra vyasasya, who knows Shastra. That's the only person who should be allowed to speak. But if there's no Satam Aduni Kanancha, there's no such jana like that who knows Shastra, and even if there's really nobody who wants to hear, still we should never give up speaking Krishna Katha. And he says, you can always, it's no problem. Katam bandhu sakirtaya. You can always speak Krishna Katha with your friends, with your brothers, with your children and family members. But you should speak, Sanatana Goswami comments, you should speak what you've heard from your Gurudev, from sadhus. You should speak what you've heard from Shastra. This is my Vyas Puja offering that I just wrote to my Guru Maharaj. That last point, we went over Sanatana Goswami's purport, and we're speaking about the importance of Krishna Katha and importance of keeping our Guru Maharaj alive. And we do that by having Krishna Katha. Srila Prabhupada said he lives forever in his divine words, and the follower lives with him. So let's look at our verse again, and we'll finish. Krishnam smaram janam chasya preshtam nija samihitam tat tat kata vitas chaso kurya dasam brije sada. You should always remember Krishna and remember your favorite associate of Krishna. Thinking like that, we should always reside in Vrindavan. And how do we reside in Vrindavan? Tat tat kata vitas chaso, by hearing Krishna Katha constantly. Such an important thing. So we're going to stop there. And anybody has any reflections, comments, questions, protests, if anybody's angry about something that we said was politically incorrect or something, then please. Tirtha Karpabu, do you want to share something? We oftentimes lose you. You have so many things going on. And we love your comments. Do you want to share anything?
Yes, I was wondering this because
This is one,
somehow it was.
I like the backdrop that you painted behind you. It's really good.
Yeah, actually, it's someone else painted. Is this blue boy, from Vrindavan. He's really expert, and I was wondering this association, listening in the how is actually everything deep, right? It's more elaborate you do it, whatever, even listening. It's not just about the listening. It should be in the right association. It should be with the proper motivation, with the proper mentality, and then also our reflection for listening. We should also see if it is doing something with us, how we are progressing and like that. I was thinking like this is so important and never stressed enough. And also I see the impact when you hear in the association of like-minded devotees. It's completely different. You are actually, I would say, if you listen in a society of not like-minded devotees, or maybe it's too big crowd, maybe, and you somehow there is some kind of like anxiety or fear. You cannot really dive deeply, and you cannot open yourself so much, maybe with the comments or questions and like that. I was thinking it's so important. Thank you very much
Yeah,
for
very
stressing this
important.
point.
I want to ask Lila Purushottam Prabhu to jump in right now. And there's a verse, Lila, every time I say 11:3:30, you smile. What is that verse? And can you comment on that verse in response to what he was just saying, maybe?
Yeah, well, the best would be to share it on a screen for us to
Okay, can you find it real quick? Oh, I'm going to have to empower you to do it. Let me find it. It'd be easier. Go ahead and make a comment on. I'll look it up real quick. It'll just take me a second.
Actually, I have you asked me about this specific verse, but I had an exchange with Tirthakara Prabhu today. He was asking me for if I can give him the reference for Sajatiya Sasnigdha Sangha. So that was another verse that we had in the mind today. But you were always quoting this one. It's beautiful. Parasparanu Katanam Pavanam Bhagavadyasha Mitoratir Mito Tushtir Nivritir Mita Atmanaha. Yeah, I like this phrase. I don't know how much it is findable in Sanskrit, but one should learn how to associate. This is so nicely put. Like one should learn.
Let me interject. That's from Sridhar Swami's Bhavarta Deepika. It's kind of an expanded translation based on the commentary. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that it's like it tells me that it's not automatic, that it's rather matter of really being like properly guided into culture of Krishna Katha, because that what Tirthakara Prabhu mentioned may not occur to us for decades. Actually, we may just think about Prabhupada's instruction, go for Bhagavatam class, and no matter what relationship I have to a speaker, or you know what atmosphere, what association is there, I just do it out of duty. But then we consider that then when we are like, I don't want to use the word educated, but guided into the like culture of Krishna Katha, then one can. I remember when you were talking about these things, like you've been giving these examples that like the expectation of attentiveness of people for Krishna Katha in the audience was into such a level that if someone just scratch his head, you know, or whatever, it was already considered like, oh, he's disturbing and he's not really fixed on the Katha. So that would be still like one of the external things, but there is much greater benefit from Krishna Katha if and then again return to what Tirthakara Prabhu mentioned, that if we don't really have that Swajatiya Sasnigdha Sangha, the proper like atmosphere among like-minded devotees and with the proper attitude, then we minimize the mechanisms that go along with the Krishna Katha, meaning like being able to really honestly reveal one's mind, express the doubt, having the trust among those who are discussing Krishna Katha among each other. So that these are the things that comes to my mind with both of these verses. Like when I hear these words mito, you know, like being like mitra, being friendly, I can always remember our reading group. Like it really happens quite often that we come to a point that we confirm it to ourselves, even like audibly, saying, oh, it is so nice that we can have such a trust among each other that none of us even thinks about, oh, I'll rather not express this because what will the other people in the group think about it. It's just not on the mind. And I believe for all of us there, it's not many of us, but for all of us there, we have that same experience. Like I can speak freely, I can ask freely, I can reveal the doubt freely, and that's like expanded benefit of such a Krishna Katha. Because if you don't feel, if you are not in such a atmosphere, such an environment, then yeah, nice, you've heard some Sanskrit, you've heard some shlokas, good, but might not really um, move your heart or involve you on the emotional level and then like that. So these are the things that comes to my mind.
I would suggest also in this verse, to answer Tirthakara Prabhu's question, that we can see a sequence in this verse. First of all, as the translators gave, based on Sridhar Swami's thing, the verse talks about how to learn to associate with devotees. The first principle is paraspara. There should be back and forth like we're doing now. When we have back and forth, and we're doing it as an exercise, maybe we're not close together, we don't have faith in each other, as you were saying, etc. But we're still coming together. We have that much faith. And we hear back and forth from each other. Then something happens. Oh, wow. Actually, Lila Purushottam, although he's a troublemaker, he makes sense sometimes. He's got some good, and in your faith, in your trust in that person increases. And then mito rati mitastushtir. When you have that kind of faith, that trust in that person, then you can reveal your heart. And your sangha becomes very close. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, in one comment, one lecture, I think it was, he was saying that doing, what do you call it, platform preaching is not very beneficial. We want to have something for individual. But it's ironic that he says like that because he also did platform preaching. And Srila Prabhupada also did platform preaching. So we may say, what is the purpose of that platform preaching? Some purpose is there. We do that, and there's some paraspara, people ask some questions and things. And if they develop some faith from that initial exchange, then they can come closer. Maybe they'll come and live in the temple with Srila Prabhupada. They heard Prabhupada spoke some in at Tompkins Square Park many times. And some of the people who heard that, they followed them. They developed some faith, and they followed him to the temple. And then they started staying in the temple. So my thought is, Tirthakar Prabhu, that it goes in this kind of sequence. Is that helpful? What Lila said and myself?
Yeah, actually, you said very interesting point, and I can confirm it because, sorry, it's Lolita here. That from those sanghas, I have in those groups people which are from completely different areas, and they never met in real life. And then they met maybe after a year or two or something like that, after associating in those sanghas only through Krishna Katha. And they realized that they are actually very good friends when they met in real life.
Oh, that's very sweet. I hope we have the same experience here also. Not everybody here is physically met. I think I physically met everybody in the Sangha, but not everybody is so fortunate in this group. But I have that dream. We can all come together.
Little gathering for Radhashtami, hopefully.
Yeah, coming soon in New Brajadam. And Tirthakarpa, you are invited.
I'm already meditating on that. Lila told me, yeah.
Okay, and on the Friday before, Lila Purushottam was being salty, so he's not going to come. But on the Friday before, we're going to have another program at Agar, which will be even more sweet and intimate with some of the devotees from the group. I think Jaigor will be there. Okay, can we go on and then to Kalindi? You're finished? Okay, just a second, Kalindi. Let me just take these guys off here. You're not muted, are you, Kalindi? Can we hear you? It looks like you're muted. Unmute yourself.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. I actually have a question, two questions. First one is when we're speaking of Brijabasis, like who is counted to be a Brijabasi. So my question is whether to remember Vrindavan. I mean this Bhauma Vrindavan. And if Vrindavan is in our thoughts, and for example, we visited different places and we meditate on these places during the day, does it count also something like living in Vrindavan?
It depends on the level of our consciousness. If we just go someplace where devotees are chanting, there's some bhakti and mukhi sukriti. But our society is not the society for Sukriti consciousness. It's a society for Krishna consciousness. And sometimes we kind of mistake that, oh, I'll get some Sukriti by going to Mangalartik. Yeah, you'll get some Sukriti, but if you go to Mangalartik and you're actually there with your heart and mind and really absorbed, you get so much more benefit. So we want to be absorbed internally, and then we'll get the real proper benefit from it. Is that helpful?
So does that mean that if we visit Vrindavan and it depends on consciousness actually, which we are in, and then when we are out physically, like out of this Bhauma Vrindavan, still depends on consciousness, like
yeah,
even if
even you can be in Vrindavan. But if your
Sorry.
consciousness is like, even if you're in Vrindavan, but your consciousness is you want to drink the blood of small children, like Putana. I went to Putana's birthplace once. She's born in Braj, not far from Mathura. But she's not a Brijbasi. What kind of horrible conception does she have? So what is our purpose? And my point simply today is that we want ISKCON, we want our temples to be Vrindavan. We want to establish Vrindavan all over the world. That's why we do Harinam. But unless our consciousness is there with that activity and our heart is there, it doesn't really happen. And even if we're physically in Vrindavan, in Mayapur, we may be on top of the Dham and not really in the Dham. Is that more clear?
So actually, you said that this actually Vrindavan is a law. So yeah, it doesn't matter where we are, but this consciousness of love is what do you mean, Vrindavan?
Yeah. Even if you're in Vrindavan,
Yeah.
but you're not in Vrindavan. You may be in hell. And there's people do some really terrible things in Vrindavan. I have a friend, kind of an acquaintance, who's friendly with me many years ago. He used to buy books from us for his shop. And he had some very evil proclivities, some evil activities. He liked little boys. And he would go to like the sons of rickshawallahs and things and do really terrible things to him. And then one day he disappeared. And they found his body like a week later, that someone had taken a tractor and run over his head like 10 times or something. So he was in Vrindavan, but he's not in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada comments that by the blessing of Vrindavan, he may take birth as a monkey or a pig or something in Vrindavan and get some benefit because Vrindavan is so merciful. Still some benefit is gotten. But that's not Vrindavan. And in the same way, we should firmly stand up. And people in our society, if they're doing evil things in the name of Krishna consciousness, that's not Krishna consciousness. That's not ISKCON. It's not Prabhupada's movement. I can't tolerate that. I'm not going to go and fight against them. But the people who try to say, oh, ISKCON is like this or that, I don't agree. There may be some bad managers, there may be some places that have some terrible things that go on, but that's not ISKCON, that's not Prabhupada, that's not the Dham. And I want to be in the Dham. I don't want to just talk about the toilet in the temple. Okay?
Okay, thank you. And one more, can I have one more?
Yeah.
It's
And then we'll ask Bonnie to say something. I think she had her hand up and she's still here.
a little bit maybe strange question, but yeah, you also said it was some quote that from all the auspicious things in this world, Prema is the most auspicious. And it's like understandable, but what I'm interested in that in this quote, this word world, what is meant with this world? Like, is it does it mean this world or the whole creation? Because actually, it's understandable the whole creation. The Prema is most auspicious, but
Yeah,
what is
let's look at this statement. It's from Srila Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu. Ata sarvata kshemanam, the eva prema sarvata spurati. That of all the auspicious things in this world, the most auspicious is prema. It's saying sarvata, the translator is given this world, but of all auspicious things anywhere, means in the
okay.
spiritual world or in the material world. And
Okay.
during our katas in Germany, we were speaking from one verse in the 10th canto, where Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary explains Krishna's purpose in coming to this world. And his purpose in coming to this world is to reveal this prema. His purpose in coming to this world is to reveal his devotees, to reveal the love they have. He doesn't just come and stand in the middle of Times Square in New York City and as a deity, here I am, offer flowers to me now. But he comes with his pastimes, Jamma Karma Chame Divyam, and he attracts, and his pastimes with the devotees, he attracts so many people. Is that helpful?
Yeah, thank you.
Great thought.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Kalindi. It's really good. I'm really happy that you and Mangal are taking part. Let's see, Bonnie, you want to read your comment? Shall I read your comment? Nice to see you. Okay, I'll read your comment. You can comment further. If you, Madhavananda Prabhu, have some connections to someone and trust them and you have affection for them, then that person is my friend, whether they agree or not. This is how I feel about the Sangha and also with other devotees. If there's a devotee I trust and love, then whoever is important to that person is important to me. Ultimately, we are friends. I hope ultimately we are friends, I hope, under the blanket of Prabhupada's love for his children and grandchildren. Even the so-called villains in Prabhupada's ISKCON are not villains, they're devotees, humans who make mistakes, and we love them. They are still our friends on some level, and we should all have this love between us. Haribol. Yeah, I mean, for me, when I was growing up, I didn't like just love story movies. I like James Bond, and I like things where there's a villain. When there's a bad guy, I'd like to, if there's no bad guy, it's not a good movie. It's not entertaining. So there has to be some bad guys. And it's really exciting when the bad guys become good guys, they become reformed. And that's the wonder of our movement. So yeah, even the bad guys, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in one song in Gita Mala, he says that Chaitanya Ari Lila Pushtikari, that those Chaitanya Ari means enemy, even the enemies of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they're Lila Pushtikari. They're coming and they're enhancing the pastimes. Because otherwise it'd be really boring. If there was no demons, if there was no villains or anybody, we have to have some villains there to spice things up a little bit. But it's not that we want to do villain kata, villain kata. That's not our program. We want to think of Krishna.
This is what I think makes Krishna consciousness is so attractive, because if you keep reading through everything, even the bad guys are good guys.
Yeah.
It's surprising in the beginning to see it, but it's very hopeful.
But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't call the police and turn them in if they do something really terrible. It doesn't mean that we don't speak out against the activity, but we hate the sin and not the sinner.
It would be very scary if they didn't call the police. It would be very frightening.
Yeah. But some of them, that's just the only way that they can become purified, because as a community, as a society, we're not very well developed in terms of conflict resolution and things. We don't have a good judicial sense and like that. So better just call the police. If it's a child's been molested or some money stolen or some horrible thing like that, call the police. But personally, and I've done this in the past, one person that I knew, he's a god brother, went to prison for molesting some children, and everybody hated him. I was sending him prasadam and books. I didn't like what he did. It was pretty horrible what he did, but if that happened to him, it could happen to me. That's my feeling, and I wish somebody would be merciful and send me some prasadam, send me some book or something to read. So, thank you, Bonnie. You want to say anything else? I can't. I'm sorry. You're kind of going in and out.
Better?
Yeah, it's much better.
We don't always know if what someone is accused of is even actually true. So, I mean, there are many accusations out there about many people, and it's like I was having a discussion with a devotee recently who was going on a little rampage about a specific Swami, and it doesn't matter who it was, but they're saying this, and I said, well, there's no evidence. This person is not convicted of anything. Like here in the USA, we say innocent until proven guilty, right? We grow up, it's not just a legal idea, it's a moral conviction. We don't want to have a, what do you call that? A kangaroo court, or what do you call it when a mob justice?
Yeah.
some sort of insanity where we just accuse or someone is accused of something, and it doesn't. I mean, like, maybe it's true and maybe it isn't, but even if there's accusations, people can have other reasons for thinking it, or even the person accusing them could be genuinely confused. If someone went to Gurukul and they had multiple problems with multiple people, they might not even realize that who one of those persons was. I mean, a lot of those people might have looked the same when they were 5 years old. So, Haribol, and put it on the shelf. Take it with a grain of salt. Is that what they say? We don't want to be enjoying everyone else's problems and imagining that we're the high court judge. That's would be very dangerous position.
That's a very wise and beautiful comment. Thank you. It reminds me, a year or so ago, I got myself in big trouble because someone was saying some bad things about somebody because of something they did in the past or something. And I made a comment. I said that, look, I don't appreciate when people come to me and tell me who can be my friend and who can't be my friend based on some mob justice, internet justice. I don't operate that way. That's my personal business, who I associate with and who's my friend. And I don't just listen to whatever is on the internet or something. And maybe even they may have done some terrible thing. I have some friends who've done some terrible things, and I don't appreciate what they did. But as you said, I'm not one of the Yamadutas. My business is not here to punish them. My business is to try to be their friend and if they'd like to hear from me, there's one person who did some very bad things in America. He's an old friend, the Prabhupada disciple, and he's banned now from all temples in America. And I'm not going to question that decision that they made. That's a decision they made with the institution. That's up to them. They can do that. But when I go there, he really loves me, and he wants to drive me all over to different places. And somehow he manages to slip into my katas. And he sits quietly in the back and hears. And the whole time that we're driving, he's one of the most Krishna conscious persons I know. And he speaks he just talks about Krishna with me in Shastra. But he did some really horrible things. And I understand some people can't forgive him. I understand and accept maybe the society is going to ban him or do this or that. That's their choice. But you can't tell me who I can be friends with and who I can't. That's my personal thing. And I take umbrage. I get upset about that. Someone comes and tries to do that with me. And it doesn't mean that you have to like him. It doesn't mean I have to like all your friends either.
It would be a very cult-like mentality to try to declare Christianity to be a cult in the bad way, not in the generic way. They call it a band switch cult, where they say you can't do
it's again with a bad sound.
Yeah,
could you
Bonnie, just do whatever you did before. You did something good before. We could hear you better before.
Was saying that it would be a very cult-like mentality for someone to say, you can't have this friend, you can't read these books. Information withholding cult.
Yep. Or everybody has to think
right?
this way.
And we don't want to be information withholding. We don't want to be crazy controlling. We don't want to say people can't leave the building, or people, where did you go? Where did you go for dinner last night? I mean, we're not the Jim Jones cult, I hope, or something like that.
Yeah. And if you're a lady, how long was your skirt? Did it come above your knee or this or that? Anyway.
Right.
But at the same time, I to defend them on one level, when you're dealing with small children, you make rules. And you don't have to even explain to it. You say, don't drink bleach. You don't do that. You don't put your hand on the fire. And you make that rule. And the kid's 2 years old. And maybe the kid says, why not? You're not going to explain to him what bleach does to your body. You just say, because I said so. But the problem is, that's necessary, I recognize, for new people. But not everybody stays 2 years old. Some people grow up. And it's very painful and frustrating to be treated like a 2-year-old and told, you can't drink bleach and you shouldn't, talk to this person and that person, this and that. It's helpful for a 2-year-old, I understand. But let's not treat all devotees like that. That's partly why we're doing the Sangha. My Guru Maharaj wanted to help Prabhupada save the Sangha mission by having nice Krishna Katha, nice dealings. And those comments from Bonnie just now you made, they're great. Thank you for your wisdom and just thank you for being sane instead of being insane. I appreciate that.
Well, that's what I think about when I think of you. Thank you for being sane. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Bonnie. Okay, anybody else want to share anything? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and stop. Anybody with any last comments, questions? Kalindi, do you have your hand up again, or Lila Purushottam Prabhu?
Yeah, I want to thank you for expanding on, because last time I was a little bit afraid that we will skip over the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu verse. And so I'm really happy that we could hear about another attributes of that verse, but I'm still missing. I'm still missing the Preshtam Nija Samihitam. I would really like to explore what does it really constitute that you yourself, by your taste, select the either the Brijbasi that you want to follow or the specific rasa that you want to serve in. Like, I'm really sure that it requires a huge discussion on when it is relevant for sadhaka, when it is only imagination, and because then you can just think, oh, basically point at some page and whoever's gonna be there, oh, this page is speaking about Madhumanga, I'll be the follower of Madhumanga, or something stupid like that. So I would really love to explore more that
Yeah,
phrase.
well, one of the qualities of bhakti, which Jiva Goswami speaks about in Bhakti Sundarbha, is that it's natural, sabhaviki. That's a quality of bhakti. It's not artificial. It's not something that we push. And relationships, bhakti is a relationship. So when something arises naturally in the heart, now going to a little further in your question, if I have some, maybe it's just some kalpana, I have some, I like Madhu Mangal because I like that story so much, and Madhu Mangal is my hero. I like Ladus and I like Madhu Mangal, so he's my man. But at the same time, I should be introspective and look at myself. And if I'm still attracted to the opposite sex, if I'm still attracted to this material world, then I can understand that it's like the attraction of the attraction I have for Madhu Mangal is like the attraction of a small child. Just like, sometimes a teacher is in school and he's teaching, he's a 35-year-old man, he's teaching some 12-year-old girls. And some of the girls fall in love with him. And they think, oh, he could be my husband, and this and that. And they're 12 years old. He's a 35-year-old guy. They just have some fantasy in their little girl mind because they're very immature. They don't really understand. So sometimes we're like that also. And therefore, we have to stick closely to Shastra. We have to associate with Shastric devotees who speak Siddhanta. And we have to follow the process given to us by Guru and practice Vaidhi Bhakti. And then at a certain point, it'll naturally come. It'll be an overwhelming thing that we can't deny. And that's what Narottam Das Thakur is speaking about here. It's a little hard for us to speak on these verses because I'm not on this platform. And I don't know how many of you are on this platform where you have some spontaneous attraction for Madhu Mangal or Ishwar Puri or Lalita or whatever. I don't know how many of us are on that platform. So I pointedly didn't speak about it, but my thought is that it's a natural thing. And sometimes along the path, like a small girl who falls in love with the teacher, it may be some benefit because then she goes to class and she hears from the teacher. And so we have our sentiment sometimes, and I've seen that my Guru Maharaj, Fakir Ram Prabhu, and others didn't always discourage that sentiment. Sometimes even they would kind of encourage it. And then other times they would bash it. One thing that I find unpleasant or unpalatable around my Guru Maharaj, to be very honest with you, is the vast number of things people are posting about this miracle and that miracle, and he did this thing, and he talked to a grasshopper. It was actually an Indra, some demigod who was there, not just a grasshopper. And this thing, and I don't know about that. I mean, I would like to know about that. Sure, that sounds really cool. But as Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj sometimes comments so nicely, he says that miracles are needed by people who have lokik shraddha, who have materialistic faith. So such people, they want to imagine something. Oh, Madhu Mangals. I read this verse in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And then we're imagining something. Our whole platform is Kalpana. We're just having some fantasy. We're not living where we should be. There's a beautiful comment. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick, that I saw recently. Actually, I posted on Facebook from Naranjan Maharaj. Let's see what he said. Here it is. He said, we may not have that complete faith. However, in a quote from Amritavani, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that weakness of heart, hridaya darbalyam, is acceptable. That's not bad if we're weak, but we should not be a cheater. A cheater stands by his conviction that what he's doing is bhakti, pure bhakti, but it's not, even though it's not. He's not humble enough to acknowledge his own weakness of heart. So we live sometimes in a fantasy, and not only do we want to convince other people that, wow, I'm a great devotee, I have this WhatsApp group, and we quote 10 verses, and we do this and that, and we're some kind of great personality. Not only do we want to convince others, but sometimes we've convinced ourselves. And we're living in a fantasy like that. And sometimes then devotees apply that or try to apply principles about Raganuga Bhakti when they're still on the platform of Narta Yukta Vasta. They have anartas in their heart, and they're trying to apply something which is really not the medicine for them. It's kind of cute, like the 2-year-old child picking up his big brother's textbook where it says E equals MC squared. And he tries to figure that out. His platform is 2 + 2 = 4. He's looking at that thing. It's cute. It's even maybe nice that he's going to become interested in physics later on or something, because he has some inspiration from Einstein's theory of relativity when he just saw it like that. But you can't take it very seriously. And he shouldn't take his understanding seriously. So we need to live in the real world and keep association with good devotees who are speaking Siddhanta, and speaking Siddhanta for what is appropriate for us. It's a very, very important thing. Thank you, Tirthakar Prabhu. He's got to go now. Okay, is that all right, Prabhuji? Lila?
Yeah, because what I was asking, because it always sounds me like maybe with my hardly Vaidhi Bhakti Adhikar, like way too benevolent in a sense. And my way of thinking about it was like that as we like getting more touch with the principles of the Gaudiya Bhajan, then we really have to come to a point to appreciate the principle of anugatya, like that we are really always followers of someone. And in that sense, like my logic would make something like my primary anugatya, my primary like following of anyone is the sambandha, is the relationship with my Gurudev, with my spiritual master. So then again, it might be just too analytical from my side, because it seems that the statement in that verse, it's much more like benevolent. But for me, it would say like, okay, first I have to know who's my Gurudev, on all levels. And then I can follow him, and then clearly that position will be defined by that sambandha, by that relationship, and I don't really have to face that issue of me, prematurely picking up someone, or imagining that I have some sentiment towards someone, or like that. But as I say, my inner doubt is that it's just based on not really experiencing something spontaneous, something genuine in that from that realm.
Yeah, our conclusion is always the same. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam. We should, and Krishna will make things clear to us. And it's so many people. I remember when I joined the temple in 1982 in Los Angeles, they gave me some beads to chant on, some counter beads. And I was playing wampers or something in the kirtan, because I used to play a lot of percussion instruments before I joined. And I noticed that the counter beads were disappearing. And I thought, wow, this is some like really mysterious thing. So I remember I went to Madhurapu, I said, does this mean anything? The counter beads are disappearing. And what it meant was don't play wampers when you have your bead bag around your neck.
What mysterious message.
But at the same time, yeah, he was very kind, and he didn't make fun of me or anything like that. He kind of encouraged me, but it was very childish on my part. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mangal, you had your hand up, and then Gorni Tai Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu, for beautiful kata. Actually, just a few thoughts about the living in Vrindavan. On the beginning of the class, actually, I just remember the recent action or recent sangha on Simachalam, and it reminds me the visit of Suchitra Mataji house. It was like for me like entering into the like deeper chamber of Vrindavan. Just came from out of the Simachalam, just going through the hills there. Then we just arrived to the house, and then we go up to the stairs, and then I just entered to the temple room and saw the altar, and it was like, oh my God, where I am. And then it started, all the program, the kata, and then started the abhishek, and I saw how the relationship of Mataji is with Krishna Balaram, how she took them for the abhishek and danced with them. It was, this was like, okay, I'm maybe somewhere else, I think, to be. It was like really, really deep, and it reminds me that actually, if you have proper association and proper kata and sangha with devotees, you can be in Vrindavan, and it's not about the place. And also another thought is that I remember, like recently we spoke with Lila about how today is actually to be physically in Vrindavan is more and more tougher, because there is so many people now, and you can even move. I remember I've been in Vrindavan first time almost 20 years ago, and it was quite quiet place actually at the time. And last time I've been in 2016, and it was really tough, and all the road is bigger and more and more people, and today's even harder. But my thought is that actually it for us is maybe some kind of blessing, because it forced us to go deeper and focus more on the real meaning of the Vrindavan, not just on the tourism, and and just looking around, oh, this is nice temple, this is this, but really to stay and find the something deeper, to go visit sadhu, and to really find the proper places and do Krishna Katha there. So this is just my thoughts about the kata. So thank you very much, bro, for the sangha, and thank you all for to take me to Vrindavan on Janmashtami. Really, really wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was thinking, what is the special quality of that place, that house? What was Mataji's name again?
Suchitra.
Suchita. Huh?
Suchitra.
It wasn't just the building, it wasn't the color of the paint, it wasn't the furniture, but it's the mood of the devotees. And we should always remember, especially when we go to a big place like Mayapur or Los Angeles Temple or New York or this or that, we should be careful not to feel discouraged. Because sometimes the very first time we go there, we're just getting introduced to Hare Krishna people, it's a big wow. But then some years later, the same place that was a big wow feels painful. And it has nothing to do with the building, it has to do with the Sangha. And so when we go, as you're saying, when we go to those big places, we should try to find out our like-minded devotees and come together in a little group with them and take part in the prasadam and the big kirtan or this or that, some public katha or something that's going on. But the real nourishment for our heart is Vrindavan. Vrindavan is a small, intimate place. Thank you, Mangal Prabhu. Gorni Thai Prabhu, do you want to share something? Now, where are you at, Gorni Thai Prabhu? Tell us that first.
Still in Mayapur.
You're still in Mayapur. Oh my God. Okay, somehow I thought you were in New Brajadam now.
That's very good news that again, I would like to be there.
Oh, you're going to come to Agar?
I hope.
Wow, that's really
Which
exciting.
day is it? Which day is it?
It'll be the 13th of September. And we've already confirmed it, and we've got a number of different devotees going.
Sure, I will make a plan.
And this group here, I think the Kalindi and Mangala, Orsi, Jai Gore, who used to be here and part of this group, I'm poking him if he listens later on. Krishna Kunda and I will all be present, and some other friends too. And looks like we're losing Ujjwala Rasagya. I hope she could be there for the 13th, but I don't think so. She's in North Carolina in America. And Bonnie too. Let's not forget Bonnie. So yeah, that'd be great, Goni Thai Prabhu. We'd love it. That's our life. And that's the only reason we're doing this. We're not doing this. I'm not a scholar, but and I'm definitely not giving everybody bhakti because I'm not a sadhu. And we're just trying to have Krishna Katha. That's our life. It's the only thing that would keep us going. So important.
So one question I have, that in this Rasamrita Bhakti Rasamrita verse, there is a statement that one should choose a very dear devotee who is a servitor of Krishna in Vrindavan, and one should constantly engage in topics about that servitor and his loving relationship to Krishna. So why we should choose one person? Why not just a group or?
Well, you already chose Vrindavan instead of Vaikuntha.
No.
But you chose a group of people, the Brij Basis. You could have chosen the Dwarka Basis or the Ayodhya Basis, but you chose the Brij Basis. Now, amongst the Brij Basis, again, maybe you're going to choose the cowherd boys, or maybe you're going to choose the elderly gopis, or maybe you're going to choose the young gopis, or maybe you'll choose the peacocks, or the cows, or whatever. There'll be a group which will be attracted by, and that group is also important because when we want to, if we want to enter into a place, if I want to go to Radha-Desh, I can't just show up and say, here I am, everybody should love me, and now I'm part of things, and maybe I'll join the temple council. And they'll look at me and say, who the hell are you? You know, there's a whole group there. But if I show up and I say, I know Bhakti and Dorothea, and they say, oh, you know Dorothea. Oh, very good. Maybe they'll throw me out then, I don't know. Or maybe some doors will open. So we're going to have one particular person who's our special person, but that person also brings us to a group. And perhaps initially we're attracted by a group. by the Brijbasis, and within Vrindavan, especially the cowherd boys, and within the cowherd boys, especially those boys who go with Krishna and Balaram, go with Krishna when he goes to meet Radharani, the Priyanama Sakhas like Madhu Mangal and others. I'm very attracted by that group. And then maybe one particular person. So is that helpful? And it works the same way here too. You know, some devotees join the Sangha because they saw something online and they like the Sangha and how everybody's talking. And then you come a little closer and then you find, wow, I really like that Gauri Thai Prabhu. He's really a nice guy. And you develop some attachment to one particular member in the Sangha.
So that does it mean that then you research and then you try to find some books or some persons who speaks about the special devotee or special group?
This is our path. We just follow the pathway that's been given by our Gurudev. And he gives us what books to read. We speak with him. He teaches us about that katha. And he shows us, he tells us where to walk, what direction to walk in. He tells us what it's going to look like. He's the ground that we walk on. He tells us how to move our legs. He is our legs. He gives us everything. And then we can enter into Vrindavan in that way.
Good, thank you. And the last verse which you mentioned at the end of the class, that one should only allow to speak someone who is well versed in the Shastra. But then the next is, can you show that verse, the last?
Yeah, sure. Give me a moment here. Let me look up, because we translated it much better. Actually, let's not even look at that verse. Let's look at the commentary on that verse that I wrote in my Vyas Puja offering. Let's see if I can find that. Yeah, there we go. It's pretty quick and easy. Oh, but no. Give me a moment. It's a really beautiful commentary. I like so much. There we go. You need to, oops, God, I'm making mistakes again and again and again. Oh, here we go. This is it. Here we go. All right. So this is from my Vyas Puja offering in my Guru Maharaj. This is Sanatana Goswami's commentary. Shastra Gya Kirta Yet Iti Likitam Kintu. We want to hear Shastra Gya Kirta Yet. We want to hear from someone who knows Shastra. And this is why Srila Prabhupada stressed so much, quote Shastras, why your Guru Maharaj quotes so much, quote Shastra. My Guru Maharaj quoted so much, because it doesn't belong to us. And even if there's nobody around who knows Shastra, kintu means but, or if there's nobody who knows, who Shastra gyatva bhave, who doesn't know Shastra, then still pita tatena bhagavat katha shushusha vaishnava, still we should hear. And it may even be shushusha vaishnava, some childlike Vaishnava. We may hear from anyone who can speak Krishna katha. But then he finishes by saying that how will we know what katam bandhu sunija bratir putra kala tradishu kirtayet, excuse me, nanu sapi katam ge, how will we know that kata? So how will we know it? Loka vishrutamiti, that we've heard from our Gurudev and accepted, or from the community that we've heard it in. Then we can speak that. It's a beautiful purport, isn't it?
Yeah. So that last part is it's practical, but not so easy to keep the balance. Because, for example, I remember I have today kata, and there was a discussion about different situations of Srimati Radharani. And then I remember that one time Srimati Radharani become a co-head boy. And I think I heard it from you or from someone else. It was like coming up in my memories. And I started to quote it, but then I realized that I don't remember. So then what we should do?
Well, in that case, you can say, I remember something like this. Maybe I heard it from my Guru Maharaj, I heard it from this person, this or that. it's a little dangerous. You're right. We're walking on thin ice. And I think it's really important that we qualify it, that we say, you know, I tell a story sometimes. I told this in Germany, in Semachem recently, that Prabhupada, once he called for some devotees in Australia, and he told them, don't think you're devotees. You're not devotees. Rather, you're just like an actor on the stage pretending to be a devotee. But there's also a benefit to pretending, because you get in the role, you get in the mood of that person. So I heard that story, but I don't know where it's from. I don't know if it's even true or not. So I always qualify it. And I spoke that in public, actually, in German, in Semachem recently, because it was very appropriate for the time, and because I think the Siddhanta is correct. But to present it as a historical thing, I have to qualify and say, I don't know where this is from. I don't know if it even happened, but this is a story I heard, and I heard it from a devotee from Australia, from a senior devotee. So it must be true, right, Prabhu? I read it on Facebook. It must be true.
So qualifying,
yeah,
honestly qualifying. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Gaurnitai Prabhu. Okay, so can we go ahead and stop there then? Anybody else exploding? Something you have to share? Exploding is bona fide. Okay, so I think next week we'll be here, and there's another comment from Dorothea. She has to keep her camera off. Okay. Anyway, everybody's invited. You come to Eger if you're in Europe or something, and somehow you can manage your way. But just let us know ahead of time as much as you can, so we can know how many people to cook for. And we look forward to seeing everybody, and then a new Vrajadam. And otherwise, we'll see everybody here next week, at least in this form. And there's some association. We talk about this thing, you know, that what does it mean online or having a Zoom talk? It's not the same. It's just not the same. I want to protest. It is not the same. But when we share something from the heart, then there's definitely something there, and we've all experienced that. It's definitely some reality there, and we're just doing whatever we can. And please, dear Krishna, please let us all come together and take prasadam and do kirtan together, some physical place sometime. Maybe in Lila Purushottam Prabhu's house. I really like. Gaurnitai, you were there. It's a good house, isn't it?
Yeah, but you say that it's not the same. But how then the sadhus are present in their books?
Yeah, they're
So
present
just
there.
like a record.
Right. And the Prabhupada, in several places, he said, just like recordings, it seems like I'm present, but I'm not. So what does that mean? He's present, but he's not present. And we've also experienced that. You know, you can't touch me right now. You can't smell what I smell like. I can't share any prasadam with you. And there's a kind of energy also that happens in the physical presence. Now, persons are also present in their books, but to the degree of our consciousness, to the degree of how elevated our consciousness is, we can perceive that. If you're a Mahabhagavat like Jiva Goswami, and you're commenting on the first verse, you see this whole pastime with Radha and Krishna and Lila and everything, and he sees it in the verse. My God, but I don't see that. You know, but depending on how elevated we are, we'll appreciate something, and we should. And when we come together in this kind of forum or physically, we should quote Shastra and our acharyas. That's our life. That's our life. But we're going to appreciate it differently according to our level of consciousness. But everybody should do Krishna Katha, no matter what. Okay? All right. Thank you, Gaurnitai Prabhu. And Bonnie comments, the prasadam doesn't taste the same on Zoom. That is a big problem. I've also marked the same thing. Well, thank you all so much. Srila Prabhupada ki. Go Premanandi Hari Hari. Go Vanchakalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.